So the communication of your facial expression, frowning up or doing whatever it is when a person is talking to you, even before they finish talking, you are communicating a displeasure to them. You pose a question, how do I control initial thoughts that are seen prior to processing what is heard? So my thought is, in order to accomplish that, which is the benefit of having a more thorough, empathetic, and congruent conversation with the others, because it will remove the context of judgment, which can be seen on your face, let's discuss how to form an opinion on pause. So this simply means the reason why your face is reacting is because of an opinion that you've already set in your mind even before the individual has stopped talking. To learn how to get away from this and to measure your progress on a daily basis is to pose questions to yourself. Let's first talk about the first half, which is forming an opinion. Talk about the second half, which is to pose questions to yourself in order to reduce forming this opinion. So, with that being stated, the question I have for you is, if you go back into the last event that this occurred, when you are appearing to judge the individual through your facial expression, because that is a nonverbal, and we know that nonverbal is also in language. So the communication of your facial expression, frowning up or doing whatever it is when a person is talking to you, even before they finish talking, you are communicating a displeasure to them. Now, the question is, if you look inside of that, look at your last situation that this occurred, and identify to me, even in the conversation, identify to me when you recognize an opinion was forming in your head. What we want to do in reviewing the example that you provide is to identify the moment of displeasure, because the moment of displeasure was the triggering point that led to you forming an opinion and then externally showing the opinion. So we have to break down your scenario. If we don't break down your scenario, then it could be cluttered to where you can't see these points. We got to break it, simplify it down in order to see the points. You were watching a television show. The television personality or the person who was on the television show may mention that they live with their mother by choice. You then showed an external reaction. You frowned. We got to stop there. What happened in between those 2 points is what we need to really think about, because in order to overcome forming an opinion and expressing it on your face prior to the completion of understanding what the speaker is saying, you must understand your trigger points and how you are impulsively responding to those trigger points. Does that make sense to you? All right, so let's take a look at those 2 points. He may mention that, now this was a dating show, so he may mention to the suitor that he lives at home by choice. Something hit you, which then caused a reaction. The question is, what hit you? And I can help you categorize it by saying what was identified as a displeasure for you. What you're doing is you are digging through the displeasure to not just identify his words, but identify how his words took on a separate meaning for you that then caused the displeasure or the disagreement with him. So it's much deeper than that. And we're using this example that you have shared to really help you to unearth this. Think about that question. What was in between him making that statement and the facial expression, giving you a hint that is an identified displeasure? But dig deeper in understanding why that was a displeasure for you outside of just his words. So that means the context, right, was something different for you. And that's what I need you to take a look at and see in this scenario what that is. So as a result of your expression that really ties into your displeasure of your boyfriend's brother, which is a reflection on your boyfriend because he was raised by the parents that also raised the brother who was making choices that you disagree. In your conversation with your boyfriend, remember this though. You remember I told you have to isolate the triggers and isolate the response. Remember the 3-tier formula: awareness, acknowledgement, strategize. Before your boyfriend even said anything, according to your story to me, your facial expression had already sprung. So that tells me this has nothing to do with the conversation as a result of the storyline of the reality show. This had to do with the triggering point of already judging the brother. And how could you have recognized that trigger prior to forming the unconscious opinion? What could you have done if in hindsight? How could you have recognized the opinion? You understand why you took on that judgment because you were able to unearth those things with my help. In hindsight, how could you have recognized the trigger? So your response to that particular trigger led you to, before your reactiveness, you jumped up and slapped your legs as an expression of what is happening. Why are they doing that? So that could have been the first indication to you. Then the question next is, what strategy could you have used when you felt that this trigger was taking you outside of just your normal center place, because it started becoming dramatic for you? That's really what the trigger was. But so therefore, what strategy, thinking hindsight, could you have utilized in order to manage your mood to avoid the expression and avoid the argument or the tit for tat with your boyfriend due to your reaction? So shutting it off, knowing that you didn't have to continue, how would that literally had played off or played out rather? Or while you feel like you may have to explain it, you could have used a internal strategy first. You could have taken a deep breath, or you could have excused yourself to the restroom for right quick to do some self-talk, then come back. That could have been a strategy that you could have used. And if you felt like you needed to then discuss it, you would have been at a lower temporal level to where you could have discussed it wisely instead of accusatorily. So with that being stated, let's kind of identify what could help you with these reactions. Mindfulness and awareness, active listening, non-judgmental attitude, practice delayed responses, facial feedback exercises, emotional regulation techniques, and guess what? Seeking clarity.